The question of whether drugs are dangerous because they're illegal, or if drugs are illegal because they are dangerous, this is a very difficult question to answer, and I think that there are certain views or certain points that can be argued for both views, and they're both partly true. I think if I had to choose one statement to believe in is more accurate, I would say that drugs are dangerous because they are illegal. The other alternative statement, that drugs are illegal because they are dangerous, is a very flawed statement. It's too simplistic, and I want to first go over why I think this statement is inaccurate. First of all, there are many dangerous drugs that are actually legal. Not all dangerous drugs are illegal. Some dangerous drugs are legal and they're sold as prescribed medication, or you might have heard of alcohol and tobacco. These are legal drugs that are dangerous. And depending on where you live, there might be historical or religious reasons as to why certain drugs are illegal. I know in Saudi Arabia, for instance, alcohol is illegal, and that's a commonly legal drug elsewhere in the world. Some drugs remain illegal because they haven't been researched well enough, and it can therefore not be sold as prescription medication. While some illegal drugs have bad influences on individuals who use these drugs, that does not necessarily mean that the drugs themselves are dangerous. In fact, most drugs, or most substances, or almost all substances, are dangerous in excessive amounts. It's not the drugs themselves that are dangerous in most cases, but it is actually the improper use of these drugs that is dangerous. So these are the main reasons why I believe that the statement that claims that drugs are dangerous because they're illegal or drugs are illegal because they're dangerous is faulty. Now, it is certainly partly true. Some drugs are illegal and some of these drugs are dangerous. These three examples are prime examples of why some drugs are illegal because they're dangerous. You can overdose by using any of these drugs, and these drugs might cause harm to certain people around the individual as well, not just the individual who uses these drugs, but other people may also be harmed by these drugs. However, then there are certain other drugs that are not actually quite as harmful as most people would think. LSD and marijuana are two drugs that aren't really harmful. You can't really overdose on these drugs. Well, the amount of LSD you need to take to overdose is several thousand times the amount required for recreational purposes. And some people might say that marijuana is a dangerous drug because it can be seen as a gateway drug, but that's not really a danger of the drug itself. It's more to do with the individual who uses these drugs, who then decides to go on to more dangerous drugs. Many illegal drugs are dangerous. This is a fact. And the number of people in the United States that went to the ER, the emergency room, for use of prescribed medication is the same as the number of people who went to the ER because they used illegal drugs. As you can see from this graph, the number of people who used opioid analgesics, which is prescribed medication, and had to go to the ER is the same as the combined number of people who went to the ER because they used cocaine and heroin. And over 450,000 people died from drugs that were FDA approved. These are legal drugs in the past 10 years. Tobacco is the leading preventable cause of death in the United States. So many legal drugs are dangerous as well. I don't think it is accurate to claim that dangerous drugs are all illegal. And here's another graph that I think is very that demonstrates this point very well. Some of the top most harmful drugs in our society is alcohol and tobacco. These are legal drugs. They're right up there with heroin and cocaine. And some of the least harmful drugs in our society are illegal. Ecstasy, LSD, mushrooms, these are all illegal drugs, yet they are not causing as much harm as certain legal drugs. So that's why I think the second statement is inaccurate. It is inaccurate to claim that drugs are illegal because they are dangerous. However, I do believe that drugs are dangerous because they are illegal. And there are 5 main reasons for this. The first reason is the death penalty. There would be no death penalty if drugs were illegal. Second reason is the lack of education about illegal drugs. The third reason is there are no safety regulations regarding these illegal drugs. And the fourth reason is that illegal drugs are more likely impure, and I'll get to that in a moment. And the last reason is the war on drugs, which causes several thousands of deaths every year. In 2010, there were 1,000 deaths because of drug offenses. And just in Singapore alone, between the year 1999 and 2003, there were 110 executions because of drug offenses. If drugs were legalized, there would be no death penalty, and these deaths could be avoided. The lack of education about illegal drugs makes them more harmful. Most people have no clue about how much drugs they should take once they buy illegal drugs. What is the safest way to take this drug? How does this drug affect you? Most people don't know this. I believe if drugs were legalized, there would be a higher awareness of drug safety, and people would know how to properly use these drugs, just as they do for alcohol and tobacco, which are currently legal drugs. Illegal drugs are more likely to be impure. Because these drugs are illegal, they are often produced by illegal means. And when they are produced illegally, they are often mixed with other chemicals to lower the production costs. When these drugs are mixed with other chemicals, they might cause harmful side effects to the individuals who take these drugs. If drugs were legalized, there would be no impurities in these drugs. They would be pure, they would be regulated and produced by pharmaceutical companies under government regulations. There are no safety regulations for these illegal drugs. When someone today decides to buy heroin, for instance, they will go to a drug dealer and they will buy impure heroin. They won't get any instructions on how to use this. They will most likely use unclean needles, which causes them to be exposed to HIV, for instance. If drugs were legalized, there would be proper instructions and equipment that would be provided to the individuals who decided to use and buy these drugs, because they would be regulated by the government, and there would be implied there would be safety regulations by the government. The last reason why I think that drugs are dangerous because they're illegal is because of the war on drugs, and it causes several thousands of deaths every year. The total deaths because of the war on drugs so far is estimated to be over 47,500, with almost 16,500 deaths last year alone. And this has caused a very important debate to occur in Central America, where several presidents and high government officials have decided to meet and discuss whether or not they should legalize and regulate the use, production, and sales of these drugs in order to diminish the deaths occurring due to the violence related to the drug use. If these drugs were legalized, thousands of deaths would be avoided, safety regulations would be implemented, drugs would be controlled and regulated by the government. So those are the 5 main reasons why I believe that drugs are dangerous because they're illegal. There's a death penalty, lack of education about legal drugs, no safety regulations for illegal drugs, impurity of illegal drugs, and the war on drugs. And to say that drugs are illegal because they're dangerous really is too simplistic of a statement. It is a faulty statement, and that is why I believe that the second statement is more accurate. Drugs are dangerous because they're illegal.